Dallas Mavericks have taken a 2-1 series lead against the Los Angeles Clippers. This series now comes down to Game 4 in Dallas. Mavericks can either take a 3-1 lead or the Clippers can go and tie the series up going back to LA. In this video, we'll talk a little bit about the Clippers and what was a pretty poor offensive performance against Dallas in Game 3. Talk a little bit about why that was and some adjustments that they can make going into Game 4. If you like these videos, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment. Let's get into it. So the first thing for the Clippers were really bad turnovers. They had a lot of these possessions where they were dribbling off their feet, making poor reads. Here we get Harden isolated with Daniel Gafford, and Gafford actually plays a very good defense on him after he gets the ball back. Just a clean swipe of the ball and an easy turnover. So that stuff can't happen if you're Harden. Here, just throws the ball out of bounds, trying to get the ball to Westbrook, and the Clippers were ultimately shooting themselves in the foot with these turnovers. There were some goofy turnovers here. The Mavericks are able to get a ideal shot off for the Clippers defensively as they force Exum into a mid-range jumper. Westbrook comes down with the rebound, but then runs right into Josh Green, turns it over. Another one where Harden gets the ball swiped away by Kyrie, Luka loses the ball, and then Plumlee loses the ball again, turns into an easy dunk for the Mavericks. A number of poor reads were made in this game here. Harden comes off a simple double drag screen and tries to find somebody on this pass, and it ends up turning into a fast break opportunity for Dallas. Kawhi on this possession doesn't anticipate the stunt by Derrick Jones Jr. and loses the ball. Harden driving into the middle of the paint but doesn't see Gafford showing his hands, and it turns into another fast break opportunity for Dallas. Paul George, not really knowing where he's going on offense here, has to throw it almost out of bounds. Kawhi has to save it and just has to turn it over. Another fast break opportunity for Dallas. So the Clippers have to get this cleaned up going into Game 4. But even though the turnovers were an issue, I think their half-court offense as a whole was very, very putrid, and we'll go over that right now. Clippers had a pretty poor shot diet in this one. Here we get Paul George just pulling up off of a ball screen over Derek Lively, turns into a miss, kind of a run-out opportunity for Dallas. Another possession where Harden goes ISO against Lively and gets rejected at the rim. Credit the Mavs for being able to play really good defense on the perimeter with some of their bigs, but the Clippers are totally playing into the hands of the Mavericks if they continue this up. Harden here on this possession just dribbles for way too long. Man gets an open three, but he's the one guy in the Clippers starting lineup that you're probably fine with shooting the ball. So that possession is an ultimate win for Dallas, even though they gave up an open shot. But the open shots were few and far between because there's a lot of these possessions like Paul George taking a step back shot. You're down by 12, need some baskets, and that ends up being the shot die that you're getting. So really poor from the Clippers as a whole. A lot of isolation, which is something that they operate in most of the time anyways, and they're good at it. But in the playoffs, these isolation possessions really have to pay off, and in Game 3, they did not for the Clippers at all. Turnovers, some bad shot selection are two things, but another thing that really hurt the Clippers was the play of Russell Westbrook. Westbrook goes 0 for 7 on the day, and when we're talking about bad shot selection, Russ really showed that in Game 3. Westbrook does provide some good things offensively. I think he can actually be a very good cutter off ball for the Clippers, but these are the moments where he really kills the Clippers offense. Easy spot up opportunities where he's spaced out, gets open, clean looks, and just cannot convert. Westbrook is very poor. He's in the bottom 10 percentile in the league as far as spot up possessions and how efficient he is in those. So the Clippers will need to game plan a little bit more on how to use him, because he cannot be just a spot up guy who stands behind the 3-point line, because he's not going to be able to knock down these shots at a good rate. So what can the Clippers do offensively going into Game 4? There were some really good actions that they had throughout the game. Now these are very few and far between, but they were there, and I think more focus on being able to get into these actions early and often are going to benefit the Clippers if they can pull off this come Sunday. Here we have Westbrook bringing the ball up, 18 seconds to go on the shot clock. They're already into an action. Here they bring Mason Plumlee up in what is ghost screen, where he slips out of this ball screen for Westbrook and immediately veers down and sets a pin down for Norman Powell. Powell makes a very, very good read as Luka has to shift over into the paint to take Plumlee away, and generates an open three for Coffee. He just misses it. Here's some not great defense from Dallas. They end up getting a little confused on the three here for Harden. And then off of this zoom action here, you see Man setting down the pin down for Harden. Harden gets the handoff from Zubac and is able to get to the paint pretty easily. Notice Washington steps over but doesn't really fully take away the drive from Harden. The tough position that Washington's in is he's helping off of Kawhi Leonard, who is shooting 43% on the season on catch and shoot 3-pointers. So you don't feel confident leaving him completely open. Exum also needs to step over, but Norman Powell's in the corner, one of the best spot up shooters in the league. And so when Harden drives in, it's just an easy dump off pass over to Zubac, gets an open shot at the rim. Another early possession here where they get an early drag screen on the empty side. Norman Powell just skunks the layup. Then Zubac actually is a pretty good reader out of the short roll here. He gets it over to Kawhi in the corner, just attacks a pretty okay closeout, easy dunk. I do think Zubac has a lot of ability here in the short roll. Here he gets another opportunity to Harden. Harden just misses the open three. And another way the Clippers can get some of their star players involved more is some of these off-ball actions. Here we have Paul George pretending like he's setting a little flex screen for Powell. Powell just ends up staying in the corner. And Zubac is the one who sets the pin down for Paul George. He comes off of it, gets pretty good space, is able to feed Zubac, and he gets the easy layup. Here's another situation where Paul George sets up Kyrie Irving like he's going to come off the pin down. Kyrie is top blocking here. Harden makes a good read over to George, who cuts back door, gets a little spooked by Gafford and misses the layup. But these are the actions that if you're the Clippers, you need to run more of. There's too much of this isolation where it is Harden working on the perimeter, Paul George working in the mid-range, Kawhi working in the mid-range. That all needs to get figured out a lot more, or else the Clippers don't stand a chance here in game 4. They did have Kawhi on a little bit of a minutes restriction. They had Paul George, who had some foul trouble, so makes some sense as they weren't able to get into their offensive flow. But if they are going to beat the Mavericks, they need a lot better offensive execution here down the stretch.
You know, having 19 turnovers for 29 points, especially on the road, it's hard to win a game like that in the playoffs, especially when you're struggling to score. So we got to be better with that. And we just got to, we got to play faster. We got to get into our sets quicker. And we got to understand that, we got to play different. Like, do what you've done in the past, the way they're playing us. We have the blueprint of how they're playing us. So we got to do things different and do things better.